Hi, my name is Mia Vongsvong. I'm in the 12th grade and my category this year was graphic design. So my project idea was to recreate an image I found on Google only using the tools offered on Photoshop. I did the same concept last year with my old Polaroid camera, and I kind of wanted to stick with the old technology, so I recreated an old Mac computer. So I did start the project right after state last year. However, as a senior in high school, I've been super busy, so I've been working on it on and off all year. So the top picture is actually the picture from Google, and the bottom one is the one I created. The biggest challenge of my project was probably the number of parts on the computer, since every highlight and shadow needs its own layer. So to fix that problem, I have folders for my layers, and I have like larger folders over here that are rainbow colored in order of like the ones like when I worked on it, I think. But it's like the larger folders are the screen, the monitor as a whole, keyboard, mouse, like those big parts. But each of those folders has subfolders. So like the keyboard is a great example of this because the keyboard has so many parts. So if I zoom in on the computer down here, you can see like the parts of the keyboard. There's so many of them. You have the regular like base of it, you have each key on its own, and then there's a little Apple imprint on the keyboard. So over here in the folder, I have a subfolder for the Apple, all of the keys, and then the major highlights, shadows, which are just like the top and like sides. But within the key folder, I have a folder for each row of key, which I had to put in order of like the bottom row first, like on the top, and then back, because the higher a level the higher a layer is on Photoshop, it's like put in front of the layers under it on the side. So I put the last row on the top so that way it's visible over all of the keys behind it. But like each row has multiple keys. So in this 5th row here, it's a good example. I have a lot of keys in that one. It's like there's just like, here is like the first key. If I turn it off, you see like that key just disappeared. But each key has like about 5 to 10 layers itself. So the keys in the front actually had less layers because they were more simple. But as you get further back, there were little numbers and letters visible on the top, which added more layers because I had to very carefully trace it and all of that. So for this project, I had started a project like this in my graphic arts class 2 years ago. We, as a class, recreated a bell pepper, and then we had to pick an object ourselves to recreate, that was when I started the Polaroid. So I already knew how to use most of the tools, but I did figure out how to use other tools like the teacher didn't show us in the class while working on the Polaroid. But for this one, I didn't really have the issue of needing anything more than what was already given to us or what I discovered last year. So the tools I used were the pen tool, which I used the shape, not the path, because if you use the shape tool, you are able to draw a shape and it fills it in itself. The path tool does not work like that. But with the pen tool, what was really cool, I figured out, was for parts like the screen and stuff, is like right here with this box, it has an outline in the original picture, and I thought I was gonna have to find a way to draw that outline on its own, but I figured out when you use the shape tool, there's actually an option to give it an outline. So with the pen tool, you click on it, up here you go to shape, which is your first like box, and then you have fill, which is the color inside of it, and then stroke is the outline shape. I also used the blur, sharpen, and smudge tools. The blur and smudge tool are good for making it look like blurry, or not blurry, like make the shadow fade better so it looks more realistic. And the sharpen tool, this is something I figured out while working on this project, was if you use the shape or the sharpen tool on a like something you make using the pen tool, it actually gives it sort of a pixelated look, which is actually a lot like the picture I found on Google. And my original goal was just to recreate the object, but I felt that recreating the image that I found of the object would be even better, since it would create a consistency and I didn't like change it too much, since I wanted it to be accurate. The gradient tool was also really good for shadows. Like for the mouse cord, I actually used the gradient tool instead of using highlights and shadows, because the gradient tool worked just as well and was actually easier. And since the shadow wasn't too complicated, it was just a very simple, really like dark here, move to light. I used the gradient instead of the shadow, since it wasn't like a weird shape. And I also used all of the select tools, because sometimes I needed the magnet tool to draw a shape of like a weird kind of circle or something that I couldn't have done on my own comfortably. I also used the polygonal tool to draw like straight line or select straight lines on parts, like especially like sides of the keyboard. It was just easier to have it be a straight line, since that's how the computer is. When I figured out the whole sharpen tool makes it look pixelated, it was actually an accident, because I was really like rushing to finish the project and I accidentally clicked the wrong one. I was trying to click the smudge tool and I missed it, since the sharpen tool is right next to it. But the result was way better than I was realizing it would, or better than I realized it was. So it, like, the project goal was to recreate the object. However, finding a way to make it accurate was actually very difficult, since it's one thing to draw a picture using a pen and pencil, or pen and paper, or something like that, but having it on a computer is very different. So it's kind of weird trying to make it accurate, especially on like things like the keys and the screen. There's so many parts, and you can't just like copy and paste a folder and move it over, since the keys are in different positions, so the lighting hits it, makes the shadows look all different and everything. It is very similar to sketching at the end of the day though, but the difference is just you have less control over your tools. I would love to keep working on the detail for the project. I'm very proud of what I created, but I would like to get to know the program even better. It's really a fun concept and project to do. But yeah, I really think just like learning some of the tools a little bit better and all of that. The easiest part of the whole project, I think, was the slot here, since there really aren't a lot of layers to it, and because it was easy to blend it out since it really didn't have a lot of shadow. It's not a very deep indentation on the computer, so the shadow was very simple, and like really there were only, I think, 4 or 5 parts. There's one big part, the little circle, the shadow, and the highlight, and I think that was kind of it. The hardest part was definitely not giving up, which I know sounds kind of cheesy or whatever, but it was just like there were so many parts, and I did get really close to not finishing before Region, which it wasn't completely done for Region, but I wanted it to be at a point that I was proud of before sending it in. So it was really difficult to push through and get it done as much as I could. I did this all completely on my own. I had no outside help other than whatever knowledge my teacher gave me 2 years ago. I do enjoy exploring the program. It's very fun to learn new things, especially with any technology related stuff. I do really want to continue to use Photoshop in the future, even if it's not like for work or anything. I would love to do it just for fun. I do love sketching and drawing, but it's really like, it's a different feeling, but it's so fun. I've loved doing tech fair every year, done it since 3rd grade, and I know I'm gonna miss it after this year, but I'm gonna continue to do all of these things afterwards. But yeah, thank you.